Alright, so this is my first time putting myself on camera for my channel, so we'll see how this goes. But what I really wanted my first video to be was about some of the lessons that I've learned being an athlete, competing for Great Britain, and particularly becoming a completely blind athlete as well. Um, so straight into it really, just a bit about that story. I started training at the Olympic Paralympic Training Centre for Judo at the end of 2015, and I did my first competition at the beginning of 2016. I did my last competition towards the end of 2023, and I officially left the sport in the beginning of 2024. So I spent quite a long time as an athlete. Now, just before I started training at the training centre, I started noticing that I had deteriorating vision. So I've always been visually impaired, very severely visually impaired. But I started noticing I couldn't read properly. I was walking into more things, couldn't see my phone quite as clearly. And this was just before my athlete career got started. So obviously, getting straight into it was a bit of a bumpy ride, but it was a lesson in adaptation and learning how to learn, basically, is the best way I can describe it throughout the entire process. So throughout those years that I said, my vision deteriorated slowly. So some weeks it would stay static, sometimes for a couple of months it would stay static, but sometimes it would deteriorate quickly. And this meant that I would struggle with things like orientation, learning, processing things that people were telling me without being able to see what they were doing. Obviously, fighting people who could see was obviously became more and more challenging the less I could see, as it probably makes sense. So it just became a whole period of learning how to adapt to a continuously fluctuating and changing environment for me. And even, the things that I'm probably best at, lifting weights, training, exercise, which is my area really, it became very difficult, and I've had to relearn how to do most of that stuff again from scratch, basically. So towards the end of my career in 2021, during the pandemic, my vision deteriorated fully. Basically woke up, and by the end of that day I had no vision at all, so no light perception, no colours, no shapes, nothing. It's just zero, and that's what it is now. And I stayed in the sport, like I said, until beginning of 2024, which is when I left. Partly to process that. I don't think I dealt with it properly when I was in the sport. A performance environment isn't the best area to deal with something like that, but it is the best area to teach you a lot of things about being an athlete, training, how to set goals and meet goals, and learning how to adapt generally, especially given the sort of unique circumstances. So hopefully some of these things that I'm going to share here can be helpful to everybody, whether you could be a professional athlete, recreational, genuinely just wanting to get, make some changes in health and fitness for yourself. And to be honest, now I think about it, it could be useful in just virtually any context whatsoever. So I hope you find this stuff interesting. So the first thing really that I think that I picked up on over the years is goal setting, and not just goal setting as in I want to do X, Y, and Z, but learning how to break that down into little bits and learning how to appreciate little victories as well. So for me, especially when I returned to training after completely losing my vision during the COVID pandemic, getting back on the mat was a victory for me. Getting back on the mat, getting thrown, this sort of thing made me feel really ill right up until the end of my career actually. But that was a victory for me, and that was something that I sort of said to myself, well, you know what, I'm happy that I did that, even though it's a little thing. And it progresses. So little victories then became doing harder and harder sessions. Okay, so I've done that thing. Now we're going to do harder sessions again, get back into where I was previously. Again, it was a big struggle, and some things I couldn't do, some things I could do, but the improvements were always for things that I looked at and said, those are little victories. And eventually it got to the stage I got to 2 European bronze medal matches in 2 European championships, and I believe I was something like 5th in Europe towards the end. And those were victories for me as well. So you can see the sort of build up of little things stacking on top of each other, and how they create something a little bit bigger. Now, I didn't achieve my ultimate goal, which was to go to the Paralympics. It was the only competition that I never did. But I think there's far more things to be happy about than to be, than to be frustrated about. I think we always need to see that. Now, translating that into sort of any other area, health, fitness, nutrition, just appreciate little things. If you make a little change this week, so if you have one less sort of, I don't know, sugary snack this week than you did last week, and that's something you can celebrate and be happy about. And if you do one more rep on your, I don't know, on your bench press this week than you did last week, or you do a little bit more weight, that's something for you to be happy about, and something for you to be happy about those little things, because they all add up and bring you to where you want to be in the end. So that's goal setting. So I think the second really important thing that I sort of learned over the years was how to deal with setbacks or failures, or something's not gone quite right. What do? How do you get back on your feet? How do you deal with it? So the obvious one for me is obviously losing my vision continuously. That is a sort of string of setbacks, of things that you've got to adapt to continuously. Every time is different. And when I lost my vision completely, this was a big change that required a lot of adaptation, which is still going on today, to be honest. So it's a big thing. Other things like if you don't, if you get beat in a competition, or if you get beat easier than you think you should have been by someone who you think maybe you should have done better against, or if you have a bad day at training, or anything like that, or someone says something, some coach has a go at you for something that you've done, and you need to go away and think about it. The biggest thing I can say with this is, if you have a setback, just logically have a think about it. What happened? How can I deal with it? And then back to what I was saying about little victories. What are the little tiny things I can do, one after the other, to sort of make that better? So these things all link to each other, really. But if you have a setback, I'd say try not to have like an emotional reaction to it. Particularly if you're an athlete, it's not going to help you. It happens to me, it happens to everybody. But the best thing you can do is just analytically look at what happened, and just say, okay, what can we do that's little, or what small changes can we make that's not overpowering, that can maybe make this thing a little bit better. And that will help you a lot, because it gives you a direction. So when you have a setback, having a good direction to follow after that is something that can make you feel a hell of a lot better than if you just sort of have a setback and you just get all flustered and you don't know what to do. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Just giving yourself a bit of a direction after a setback is the best thing you can do in that situation, I think. Alright, so third and finally, I think the biggest thing I can say here is learn how to ask for help, and don't be afraid of asking people for assistance and help whenever you need it. So some examples for me, I was a part of a really good team. Everyone understood each other, and if I ever needed help with anything, all I had to do was ask one of my teammates or one of my coaches or someone I trained with, and they would be there to do that. And that makes a lot of difference, especially when you're an athlete, but just in life in general as well. Particularly as my vision deteriorated, I needed more help. I'm not afraid to, I'm not afraid to admit to that. It is what it is, but it's just sort of accepting that and saying, okay, I can do these things and I need help with these things. So translating that into health and nutrition, fitness in general, don't be afraid to ask help from your coach, your trainer, your family members, your partner, your friends, anybody. And particularly, if you're a part of a group that's training together, just ask for help. If you need something, just say, I'm struggling with this, and it will make you feel a lot better. You're not doing everything by yourself, and you'll probably get a much better result out of what you're doing than if you just tried to go it alone and sort of suffered in silence, I suppose. But yeah, support networks, guys, they're there for a reason. use them, and you'll get a much better result because of it. So I hope all of that was useful. We haven't really gone into any topic too deeply. We haven't gone into any specifics, but I just wanted to share a little bit about my story and a bit about some of the things that I've found can make the biggest difference to you, regardless of whether you're a professional athlete, recreational, gym goer, or someone who just wants to make a change to your health and fitness. So I hope that's been useful to everybody. Thank you.